Welcome to VMJPod's Employee Brand series with me, David Macciocca, and co-host Grant O'Donnell. Each episode uncovers bold ideas, real stories, and practical tips from experts reshaping how organizations attract and retain top talent.
Welcome to VMJPod, where we are unpacking employer brand in this series. I'm David Macciocca, and with me I have Grant O'Donnell. Grant, welcome.
Thanks, David. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm really excited to be talking about this particular theme because of the importance of employee brand and the role it has within organizations. And part of this episode, we're going to be unpacking how we remind executives or people who are funding employee brand or recruitment marketing initiatives that it's working and it's impactful.
Yeah, that's right. I've been in this role for many organizations, and I guess the level of support that you have for employer brand varies dramatically. And for me, a lot of the times where that's been successful has been where you have a manager that has a really deep understanding and they can succinctly communicate that to, their leader and even the leaders above, because obviously not always decisions around resourcing are made when everyone's in the room. It might be made above, and then it's just pushed down to say, okay, you need to lose this much headcount, or we want you to go in another direction. So that's been an observation of mine.
I feel like there seems to be a bit of a trigger point where people within organizations, executives they're certainly unaware of the impact, but as soon as there's redundancies to be made, they're looking at an employer brand and they're trying to justify everyone's position, but it seems like, and it's just an observation, a hypothesis, is that when companies are going through redundancies, employer brand, it's looked upon as getting the chop. How do you prevent that from happening to communicate that it's not just an attraction activity?
Yeah, I think it's definitely got to go back to the long-term conversation. And look, I mean, prevention is a massive challenge because it's never 100% guarantee, but it's definitely a situation of continually looking to prove the value. I would say that the challenge in employer brand of constantly proving that, and when there's a downturn, is similar to what I've sort of observed in consumer marketing, the conversations around the recent times of even COVID in the last 5 years, where consumer brands within that period were like, "Whoa,
where's the button?
Yeah.
Let's press the button.
Yeah.
Panic button.
Yeah, what are we gonna do here? We're gonna pull back. Oh no, we don't need to do that. What's our future direction? We just need to tilt everything towards a short-term sales focus," which I think I would also relate back to that same sort of parallel of we only in a downturn in a TA space, we only need to turn job ads on when that's required.
Yeah.
We don't need to do any branding work. We don't need to consider anything else outside of that.
I do want to unpack that, but tell me about your experience, because we all lived through COVID and you're at Deloitte at the time, and you clearly had a manager who backed employer brand in. Do you mind if you shared that journey and where things are at and were at back then?
Yeah, definitely. I came into Deloitte six weeks before actually everyone got sent home, and there was that core time in Melbourne of at least that first couple of weeks of going, what is going on in the world? Has anything that we've started doing here important? Are we continuing to do that? My leaders didn't have the immediate answers for that, and no one I think had the immediate answers for that. And organizations were obviously starting to make their choices around, if they needed to retain teams, whether or not they thought they were going to be able to sell things going forward.
Well, most companies let staff go initially.
Yeah. And unfortunately, that was something that happened in the organization I was at. I was fortunate enough to be in a situation where I was joining in a time of a transformation of the organization. It was a multi-year plan. Belinda Willis, who's the director there of talent acquisition, working with her to go, okay, where are we taking this team in the future? Where does this fit within the journey? Making sure that during this period of uncertainty, we are stabilizing the support that we provide to the business, communicating the value of this brand. That period of actual kind of, I think, lack of hiring and I think redundancies, for me, that actually, when I reflect back on it, that was only a matter of months, because as soon as those cuts were made and that was based on, forecasts and assumptions, that quickly pivoted to crazy levels of hiring.
Dial up.
Dialed up. I remember times in that organization over, I think we were heading towards almost 2,000 requisitions being live in that period of time, and that just kept riding through, because organizations were tilting towards going, okay, we want to do digital transformation. How we bring all these services on? Now we've got all these people working from home. So you kind of went from, holy crap, I don't know what the hell's going to go on, to, oh, actually now we've got so much work coming in, we actually need to start turning work away if we can't actually have the people to source it as well.
Yep. So clearly Belinda was able to divert those headwinds and communicate the value of employer brand and not deviate from the strategy. Where else have you seen employer brand be important, and how it's being communicated to the executive sponsor? What are the things that are important to remind people that it's working?
I think for so many different organizations, it fluctuates at a period of time. My reflection on it in organizations, look, I've been in organizations where I've been in that employer brand position and I have been made redundant. And for me, when I reflect on those organizations, I kind of go, well, I didn't do the job as well of maybe selling that further up the line consistently, but maybe I didn't see those sort of signs earlier on as well. Or maybe it's a situation of, like, I guess, decisions are already made and it's going to happen. But, you often want to reflect on when you're on the receiving end of that to go, could I have actually done something better to articulate and communicate the value that it's bringing? And that could be around, okay, because of the job that we're doing and the activity that we have in market, we're getting a better quality of candidate. And that can be a quantitative, mechanism that you're getting through the talent acquisition team, of the type of candidates that you're bringing in. It could also link through to
and as a result, the knock-on effect of talent pools being stronger, conversion might be increasing. You're not having to reapply for a position. So what are the roles that are being applied, advertised, or the time to hire in certain job sectors is reducing that time. And
it can be a reduction of that time to hire. It can be also the diversity of candidates that you're bringing in as well.
Ethnicity, age, gender, that.
Definitely. And I mean, for most organizations, the focus typically is on gender and First Nations, I would say.
Okay.
And that's not going to change. That's not going to change just because you've got more job ads out in market.
So aligning to the bigger picture from the business on what an initiative that they've got.
Definitely. If you don't, what I sort of find it's kind of like what's the push and pull inside an organization. So sometimes I think, and I have this sort of question within talent acquisition and people and culture teams, is that, okay, we have these initiatives and we have these targets that we're trying to chase. Mm-hmm. What's the buy-in from the business? Are we trying to force this upon the business to say, hey, you should change the makeup of your area so that there's more female representation, more Indigenous representation within your part of the business? Or are they actually on board with it and be engaged with us in the process? Because that's a critical factor in, how difficult it is to do the job, not only from the marketing side, but for the recruiters as well. If you're trying to convince the hiring manager, no, you should have a equal representation of candidates, often the hiring managers, if they haven't bought in on any level of diversity, they're just like, no, I just want the person that does the job. I'm not interested in any of these other details. If they haven't absorbed that understanding and can see the value of having diversity within their team, not only in representation, but I think diversity of thought as well.
This episode is brought to you by Video My Job, introducing the fastest way to turn employee stories into multi-channel content. One video now instantly becomes branded blogs, quote cards, social posts, and more, all perfectly formatted for the channels you use to attract and engage talent. And the best part, zero editing required. Record once, repurpose everywhere. Book your demo at videomyjob.com and experience the new era of employee content creation.
And what about what emphasis do you place on the overall candidate experience? Is there an opportunity there?
Oh, there's always a massive.
I say that because employer brand, especially in Australia, they're just doing so many things. It's like they do a bit of recruitment marketing, and then they're custodians of the brand, and then they dabble in the candidate experience. And under someone's portfolio, there might be that opportunity.
There's definitely the opportunity to be delivering on the candidate experience and enhancing that. I think depends on the maturity of the I guess the employer brand and recruitment marketing that's happening within the organization.
Yep.
How refined the recruitment processes are, the onboarding processes, the data that you have access to.
Because it's a play on reneging effectively. Like if your conversions are not up to scratch in certain sectors, job families, that is, like if people are just coming in and then walking out the door, so that attrition number, the retention number within 12 months, beyond 12 months, they're things that you can really impact by going after improving the candidate experience.
Definitely in terms of the reneging, and I think one of the areas that's most known for that because it typically has such a large cycle is the graduate recruitment.
Yep. Well, any high volume role like call center
for sure.
or
Definitely. I think it just becomes exacerbated by a longer time frame. If you're saying yes to a job in the middle of the year, saying a graduate, and you're not starting until February next year.
Yep.
Well, you've got a lot of thinking time, you get comfortable, you can obviously enter into other recruitment processes. It's not uncommon for grads to receive multiple offers and then kind of, weigh up their options on the table and decide, okay, I'm going to take this or that. So definitely in terms of that reneging, if you're not staying in contact with that talent throughout the process, you see those drop offs. But even equally that could be up at quite a senior level as well. You've got 3 months notice, you're going on some sort of gardening leave, then you're starting to have conversations, you're getting in a different headspace, maybe you're thinking about a new career direction. There's always a possibility that people aren't actually going to, turn up.
Yep.
Obviously, they're more professional. I think, less of the not turn up on day one, like you see in some graduate spaces.
Yeah.
But it's a reality.
Yeah. And like we see it at Video My Job, like running advocacy programs effectively, like referrals increasing by sharing stories. Sharing stories is so important. How do you measure that? And if a company is not measuring referrals, I think they should be.
If the measuring of referrals, I mean, I would also see that links to a level of engagement within the business as well. So if you're not prepared to refer your network to your organization, I mean, you can do your engagement surveys, but that's also a pretty big indicator that people aren't that excited about your organization if they're not going to encourage their network to come in and join.
Yeah.
I mean, some nuances are within that barrier of, do they even know all the jobs that exist? Is there an actual process to refer people so that it will be classified as a referral within the recruitment process?
And have you seen employer branders get involved at that level to set up a referral program or play a role in that?
I've seen it in multiple organisations, and also working in conjunction with recruiters as well. So being involved in those conversations in different organisations where it is, okay, well, this is the value of this talent. Maybe you need to incentivize your employees. If you don't already have an incentive, maybe you need to, supercharge that incentive.
Yep.
So that people are more interested in doing this.
And it could be performance or recognition, or it could be a dollar value as well.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming like referrals, gold, but time to hire decreases. They are more aware of what it's like to work within the organisation because they've been a lot more considered and heard from the person that this is a great place to work, or your skill set and and your the way you go about things would really fit into this organization.
Oh, I mean, their trajectory from going onboarding, getting to know the company to delivering value to the organization
Yeah.
is just off the charts compared to someone that hasn't already been there. Because you've also got other people that are more invested in them, right?
Yep.
So when someone you've referred into an organization, I think you more have like a personal connection to want to ensure that they succeed there.
Yep.
But then also, I guess that's a level of assistance as well. You've got an extra buddy inside the organization that can help you navigate, hey, how do I find these people? How do I make things happen here? Everything else becomes that little bit easier.
Yep.
One of the things I would sort of just kind of like contradict in a way is to caution around, if you have such massive levels of referrals, is that if you're trying to shift diversity, maybe it can convert in the opposite direction, because you're not necessarily, often people are referring, similar people to themselves.
Birds of a feather.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And then the other, I see an opportunity, particularly if someone's new to the business, like where do I start? Clearly, an employee brand wants to tell stories. They want to, or maybe they want to validate their EVP or refresh it. There's lots of opportunities, but I think an opportunity that's staring right in their face is if the organization is spending money on agency fees.
Oh, massively. I mean, if you can come in and then say, well, we don't need to do this, so you've got an immediate ROI conversation that you can put on the table of saying, if I spend this much money on a campaign, I bring these candidates in. Yes, I've invested this money in advertising, but if you're paying $20,000 plus
pop and you're employing, hiring 50 people through a hiring agency, and what's the average salary like on unskilled labor? Because high volume, they shouldn't really be engaged. Should they be engaging with recruiters? I'm not sure, but the technical roles, engineering, executives.
I mean, sometimes that does happen. Where it doesn't make sense initially, immediately, but sometimes, TA teams will then go, okay, well, I want to outsource maybe what they consider the more junior, lower value sort of candidates to the organization, where it might be a higher volume, so that they can dedicate recruiters more to having those in-depth conversations.
Yep.
But then they can just say, okay, I'm going to outsource that, essentially that churn level of work, and manage it through from that side. But it still links back to this whole conversation of, if you can demonstrate from employer branding your return on investment and cost avoidance, great.
Huge.
Yeah.
Well, anything else come to mind?
In terms of the return on investment?
Well, just communicating up to an executive of what you either can go after or improve to sort of validate you're an asset within an organization. I'm your secret weapon. To either make money. We're really talking about saving money across the board effectively.
Yeah.
But you're creating efficiencies.
Well, I think it can be about, I would say, yes, saving money. But if it's in an organization like a professional services where you've got to charge out on people,
yes,
maybe that can become a conversation of like, here's the profit. Because it'd be like, okay, you invest here. How long is it going to take for you to make that money back on those people? Yes, you've avoided agency fees, but now within their first month, 3 months, okay, what's your return on that new hire that you brought into the organization as well, or if they're in a sales role as well. So there's definitely
cost per seat.
Yes, cost per seat for sure.
Yep. No, it's so true. So I'm interested to know from your experience, what are the early signs? You're sitting in the chair, you're an employer brand recruiter marketer, and what are the early signs that you're not valued? Got any examples?
I think the early signs are, I would say it's around a lack of understanding of the role, where maybe you haven't got the face time with the right people, or you haven't crafted the right message that those people above you are understanding and able to sort of then speak on behalf and say, and this is, Grant from employer branding, he does blah, blah, blah for the organization. If you're not sort of seeing some of these sorts of things and then hearing that take place, and they can't communicate a succinct message around it, and then that's why it's valuable and important, I think that starts to be a concern. I've seen it in organizations where it's just minimized around to think, okay, the employer brand team, they do those social posts, right? And if we need to update our job ads, maybe we'll send it over to them and they'll look at it. That's
Don't
the
name
job
any
brand.
names, but like, how did that conversation unfold, and when? So was that around a moment where they were considering redundancies or creating efficiencies?
I've seen it happen around consideration of efficiencies, redundancies, whether or not you need to, if you've had a resignation or people going on leave, are we going to backfill that role?
All they do is social posts.
Yeah, all they do is social posts, or all they do is that. So can't someone else just pick up that piece of work? So that's a conversation that then takes place if there's not a true understanding of the value that's coming there. So I think there's a big role for us as marketers, and I think that's come out of in some of the conversations that we've been having, is an understanding of you need to market yourself within the organization as well, to understand employer branding, but also, I guess, the extra value that you're bringing within the organization. And this becomes more and more apparent, I think, particularly if you want to go from being an individual contributor in employer branding to then building out a team, because obviously if you can't demonstrate the value that you have then as an individual, then it's going to be very hard to demonstrate. This is why we need to get more headcount to expand the footprint here.
I do find, and like everyone's a little bit different, but I feel like the employer branders or the recruitment marketers that are reactive, the ones that say yes a lot, are maybe a little bit undervalued within their organization, because it's perceived that they have to do a lot to make it work. Whereas some of the guests that we've had, they've worked on some incredible projects that are taking a while to execute, but it's with a long-term goal of doing something. Margot comes to mind. Danny at Canva comes to mind. There's been a few, haven't there?
Yeah. I think it kind of comes through to also the maturity of employer branding and potentially even the talent acquisition team and the type of approach that they have to recruitment. It's very easy as a solo operator to get pulled in 100 different directions. And then, to have recruiters saying, I need this done, I need that done, give all these pieces, and you want to do all these things and to help all these people to improve your worth. But I think it's very much has to be, what's my plan? How am I going to strategically deliver on, maybe more of these sort of hygiene things so you can enable people to self-serve, deliver for themselves within the business, so that you can free up some capacity to take on more of those strategic projects. But you can just get pulled in all the little, nuts and bolts of everything day to day based on requirements. And if you get into that sort of space, then I guess, it's harder to free yourself up to then deliver anything of a greater value, which can potentially then take the brand further.
Yeah. So in summary, what I'm hearing is be mindful of what you're working on, tie it to a metric.
Yes.
We've discussed metrics.
Yeah.
And remind people of what you're doing, who report up, who can shine a positive spotlight on the execution, because the strategy is meaningful in their eyes.
Yes, that's right. And if you're not talking to the metrics of what you're delivering, and they can't communicate that to other people, I think it can in a lot of organizations just be a matter of time. And if there's a pressure on the headcount, well, then you're a potential option for a reduction in the organization. But I still love employer branding. But it comes with the territory. And we've discussed in other conversations, I think it's no different in the consumer marketing space. I see that with consumer marketers, where they'll refer to all their own metrics. We've got these impressions and we've done this and we've done that. Well, if that doesn't mean anything and doesn't translate to the actual business metrics, well, there's going to be a question around, well, do you need further budget? How many headcount do you need? Well, it's great that you're doing all this activity and we're seeing these things, but that's not actually changing how the business operates day to day, and the profitability of the organization. So it's got to get linked back to business metrics.
Yep. Gotcha. Yep. And the statement, if there is one that you can tie to, whether it be diversity or some sort of headline that aligns with the bigger mission of the organization. That's really helpful.
Yeah, massively.
All right. Well, it's been good chatting to you, Grant. Thanks
Cool.
for sharing.
Thank you.